Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, What's Available? Second Step Resources During the COVID-19 Pandemic. This is our May 8th, 2020 update for this webinar. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining. My name is Jennifer Sanderlin. I'm a Senior Education Partnerships Manager with Committee for Children. I get to be your host and to manage the chat box today, make sure I keep you covered with all the different links and some of the information that our speaker will talk about, and hopefully answer some of those quick questions. Again, if you could just put your questions that will wait to the end or at some point for Matt to answer, you could put Q&A, please. All right, so I'd like to go ahead and pass the controls over to our presenter and have Matt Pearsall introduce himself and get started.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here with you all. I appreciate you all taking the time to sit down with us and learn a little bit about the supports that we have created to help during this pandemic. My name is Matt Pearsall. I'm the community manager at Committee for Children. I'm also the project manager for our COVID-19 response. So as we're going through this, one of the things I'd like to encourage you either in the chat box or at the end, we'll be talking about it is not only to kind of ask questions about what's available and stuff like that, but if you've got suggestions or ideas about other things that we could be doing or should be doing, please let me know, because I really appreciate that feedback. And we have used that feedback over the last couple months to guide the work we're doing, and we'll probably continue to do that as we continue to build out our supports for all y'all. So, without further ado, let's get started with the presentation. So we're starting off by looking at some of the specific resources that we created to support you and support your students and support their families during school-related COVID-19 related school closures. We're also going to look at some additional resources that we have that are not specifically geared towards this crisis, but are useful for repurposing for this crisis. And then finally, we're going to cover some ways that you can connect with us and with your fellow educators to receive more personalized support for all of the things that you are working through as we move through these interesting times. And then finally, like I said before, we'd love to hear more from you about what you need from us and additional things that we could be doing to support you, to support your students, and support their families. So let's start off with what we have created. And it's actually, before we kind of dive into this is the third round of this webinar that we've done. We've been doing them every other week since the beginning of April, or every other week-ish. And I was going through and it's like, we've come a long way. When we first did this one 7 weeks ago, there was a lot of coming soon, and we hope to have this ready soon, and maybe we'll have something for you soon. And now there's just we've got a lot of that stuff out, and this is a much more fun presentation to do now, because I can actually talk about the things that we do have. And where can you find all the things? So the first thing that you should know about is our COVID-19 support page that we have on secondstep.org. And you can see the address right there. And we have made this sort of the source of truth, the one-stop shop for all of the supports that we are creating in response to this crisis. So you can come here and you can see all the different things we've got on it. It's not the most well laid out page, although we're going to be updating it soon to make it easier to navigate. But it has everything there. And as you come back and if you're wondering if we've got anything new, the first place you can go is you can go to that page right now, go directly to that page. And I encourage you to go to the page and check it out to see what new stuff we have coming out. So bookmark it and check it out at your leisure, and share it as widely as you want. This page doesn't require any sort of login to get to. None of the resources that are on it require any login to get to. So you can share this with your colleagues. You can share this with families. You can share this wherever and however you would like to in order to spread the word about these resources. So the first thing you see when you go to that website, the very top, we have a guide for adapting the Second Step program to remote learning, as well as some general guidelines for adapting, for doing social emotional learning remotely. So this is a place to start. if you're just starting to kind of explore what this might look like, either now or if you're planning for the fall, this is a good place to start. You'll also see in this document are the copyright our copyright permissions. We get a lot of questions around whether people can record themselves or live stream themselves using our second step content, things in your recording your kits or the videos and songs and things like that. And the short answer is you can. The long answer is in this document. But basically you can live stream yourself, you can record yourself, just so long as everything you live stream or record is protected behind a password, so that only your students and their families are able to access it. So it's not publicly available. And we do want them taken down by the 30th of June. I do recognize that when we came up with the word with the 30th June as the deadline, that was way back in mid-March, when the scope of this crisis was not fully apparent. So while the June 30th deadline is still in effect, we are aware that deadline could cause issues, and we are considering what to do with that deadline. But at the moment, that is the deadline for taking things down. So we have a lot of different content available to support K-5 students. We have recorded lessons. We've recorded all of the emotion management lessons for early learning through grade 5, and they are up on the website. Those lessons are recorded and taught by Committee for Children staff who are also experienced teachers and counselors. So we have all of that stuff up, available for you to share. That can be shared freely. There's direct links available. You can share those links with families. There's also support documents to help families use the recorded lessons, as well as support documents for educators who are using it. We also have those recorded lessons will also be coming in. We'll also be adding Spanish closed captioning to those videos in the very near future, so that for Spanish-speaking households, when families are using these lessons together, they'll be able to have those subtitles available. We also have, and we just relaunched this week, and we are super excited about it. We have original content created specifically for this content. Created specifically for this crisis and designed specifically for families to use at home. These are not adapted from anything. These are all new activities that are based around the problem-solving unit of Second Step. And these activities, when you go into the Imagine Neighborhoods Daily Adventures, is what we're calling them. They're based on our Imagine Neighborhoods podcast, which I'll talk about again in a little bit. But they're super fun and exciting, that we've been able to create this stuff that's really intentionally made for this situation. There are short activities that can be done every day, starting with an audio podcast on Monday, and then following after that we're calling the Dr. Sherry's Motion Experiments, where students and where families get to work together to practice SEL skills. Then we have movement activities on Wednesday and music activities on Thursday, and a Mind Yeti mindfulness activity on Friday. And this content is all available. You can plug it into a Google Classroom if you're using Google Classroom. You can share the links directly, and we're really excited about this material because we feel like this is the first stuff we were able to get out where we've really been able to take a lot of the feedback we've been hearing about what's working and what's not working in remote learning and create something that's intentionally meant to meet those needs. In addition to the K-5 and EL supports that we also have supports for our middle school users. So we've gotten a lot of requests for recording the middle school lessons, but we decided we weren't going to do that partially because since the middle school program is online, all educators already have the opportunity to record themselves. And also because we felt like there was a real opportunity in our middle school program to highlight the advisory activities because they really lend themselves well to being adapted to remote learning. I'm always surprised that there's people who have our middle school program that aren't necessarily aware that we have almost 200 advisory activities that are aligned to the program that are available. And we do. and they're really and I feel, and I'm sort of biased on this, is that I'm the guy that wrote the advisory program for our middle school program, wrote the advisory activities, and I've done a lot of I know the research behind advisory programs pretty well, and I just feel like that something like that really lends itself well to meeting the needs of adolescents' social emotional needs at this time. Something that's not a lesson, that's much more about building relationships and maintaining relationships, both between their peers and with adults at school at a time when they're really cut off from that during school closures and quarantines. There's a lot of potential here for it. I'm not going to get super into it. If you're really interested in this, we're doing another webinar specifically on the middle school supports that I think is happening next week. So you can hear me talk a lot more about this in depth, but just to kind of give you a basic idea of what we have available, we've created a guide to adapting the advisory activities for use in an advisory program with a lot of different ways that you can use them, whether you're using them as like synchronous activities where all of your students are coming together in an online meeting, or you're doing it in an asynchronous way where students are interacting, but they're doing it through forums or chats or other means where they don't all have to be in the same place at the same time, or even if you're supporting individual students, and that's particularly useful for students who for whatever reason are unable to participate to the extent that you would like online. These advisory activities, many of them can be adapted to be done as a packet or to be done that you send home with students. So we got a lot of advice around that in the advisory guide. We have also created advisory activities that are specifically designed for this crisis. So we have a packet of those as well, and so you can kind of leverage those to use right now. They require less adaptation for what you need. And then finally, we recognize that there's a lot of people out there that don't have our middle school program and can't access our advisory activities at all. We've also provided a starter pack of 20 advisory activities from our program that we feel are the most adaptable and useful during this crisis, and we've provided those for free on our COVID-19 support page, so that if you have colleagues that have middle school students or high school students, I think this would be very valuable for people trying to support high school students as social emotional well-being during this crisis. You can use that starter pack along with the pack of activities we've created right now in the guide, and you can create a pretty robust advisory program that'll carry you through the end of the school year. Probably it would work if you're doing summer school through the summer or into the fall, without needing our program at all. So I encourage you to check that out. It's up on our website. Another thing that we have been getting a lot of requests for are professional development opportunities. That there are educators who have we often lament that we don't have the time for professional development that we would like as educators. And some educators are finding that now they actually have the time to connect and participate and learn more about SEL than more time than they've had available in the past. Also, we've been hearing from administrators about how they would like professional development that includes all of their staff, not just teachers and counselors, but the classified staff as well, office supports, custodial staff, and bus drivers, all of the classified support staff in a building. And I think we're grateful that we're able to we have PD that we're able to make available for free during this crisis to meet that need. There's two ones that I really want to call out in particular. We have our bullying prevention unit all staff training. This is one of the modules from our bullying prevention unit program. It's the training that is for everybody in a building, and ideally everybody in a building would do this training. Research is really clear that the single biggest thing that we can do to help prevent bullying, is to train every adult in a building on how to recognize bullying, how to respond to bullying, and how to report bullying effectively. And unfortunately, in normal times, there's very little time for that, especially for support staff to be able to take advantage of that training. But now, if that's possible, this is a great time to do it. We have made that training available for free from our COVID-19 support page. I will warn everyone as you do the training, there's some wonkiness to it because we have essentially pulled it out of a larger training that exists for people who are users of our bullying prevention program, and made it free. So you kind of come in and it says, welcome to Module 2. And people might say, well, where's Module 1? Well, Module 1 is very specific to building administrators, and 2, that one is still only available if you have a subscription to if you have bought the bullying prevention unit program. And then when you get to the end of it, it says something about, making sure you get your certificate for doing it. And the certificate again is actually only available if you have the paid version of the training, for technical reasons that I barely understand, and won't try to hash out here. But the actual content is all complete and very useful and really key to bullying prevention efforts. So I encourage you to take a look at it, share it with your colleagues, share it far and wide. We'd love for many people to use it that can right now. The second thing that we've made available is the gratitude module from our SEL for Adults program. Some of you may know, this fall we are, later this year or early next year. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the actual date that we've said, but we are releasing a whole program, a whole SEL for Adults program, and part of that program was already ready to go when this crisis kind of descended upon us. And so we've taken that part of that program, which is this gratitude module, and we have made it available for free for anybody to use. So this is in a sense, it's a preview of our SEL for Adults program. But it is also a great thing to do right now, and very timely as well. There's a lot of research that shows that exploring gratitude and having a gratitude practice can be really good for your own mental well-being. And we all need our own SEL support these days. This isn't just stressful for our students. This is stressful for us as well. And so this is a great module to share with your colleagues. It is not long. It takes about 15 minutes to do. But then you can come back and keep doing it over and over again. It really is it's not just a one and done module. It's a practice where you kind of journal about gratitude and kind of be walked through it. And we really highly encourage you to check it out, see it, and kind of also get a taste for the SEL for Adults program that we have coming at a time coming up. And then finally, we have a whole lot of webinars that we've been doing. I mean, you're in one of these webinars right now. We did a fantastic webinar. My colleague Bridget Norman did a fantastic webinar on how trauma-informed practices can help support students who are experiencing trauma and other negative effects coming because of this crisis. It's an excellent webinar. I highly recommend checking it out. It's available to watch for free from either our on-demand webinar page or from our COVID-19 support page. We have a recording of the advisory program webinar that I did last month. If you can't make the live one that I'm going to be doing next week, you can always watch the recorded version that's online. And then we also have a webinar on how educators can come together and support each other, all about building communities of practice and how educators can leverage online tools to support each other during this crisis. And then on top of that, we have a whole pile of webinars just on topics around social emotional learning that aren't specifically around this crisis, but are great information for building your own practice as social emotional learning educators. We have lots and lots and lots of webinars around that. So feel free to take a look at the offerings we have. Those are always free, so you don't need to worry about them being turned off at any time. And we appreciate you being able to have the opportunity to watch them. We get a lot of questions about, so we've got these supports for Second Step, but what about the bullying prevention unit? What about the child protection unit? These are important programs that schools are doing, and you don't want to lose steam on that work. And some of that work is particularly timely right now as students are online a lot and facing issues around cyberbullying much more intensely than they might have been feeling before. And issues of child abuse are atop of a lot of people's minds because one of the unfortunate side effects of children being at home for extended periods of time during school closures is that children who are living in unstable and unsafe living situations are now in those situations for a much larger amount of the time. And so supporting students who might be experiencing or dealing with abusive situations is critically important right now. So we are not creating specific supports around our bullying prevention unit and our child protection unit, basically because the lessons that form the core of that, they're sensitive lessons that cover they cover difficult topics, and we don't feel like those lessons make the jump to remote learning, to being recorded particularly well. But we have a number of resources that we've created that are specific, that we created this before the crisis, that were specifically designed to allow families to continue the work of the bullying prevention unit program and child protection unit at home. And those resources remain they were always designed specifically to be done at home. And so they are ideal for being shared with families during this crisis and adapted for use during remote learning. And I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. So let's talk about the additional resources. These are things that we recommend you look at to adapt for use during remote learning, even though they weren't really meant for that. The first one is MindYeti. Some of you may know about this. This is our mindfulness program that we created. Well, a few months ago, we decided to put this program on it's taking a mindful pause of its own. In response to this crisis, we took the content that was always free when you logged in, and we've made it free, just free and freely available through a lot of different ways. You can get it on YouTube, you can get it on Vimeo, you can get it through Stitcher, you can get it in a lot of different ways. You can get it in English and you can get it in Spanish. And so we've made it very widely available. It's a great mindfulness practice, originally designed to be used for kind of middle elementary kids, but we found that it's been very effective with younger elementary and all the way up into middle school, as long as they've got an open mind around cute animated characters. I highly encourage you to check this out. This is something that is ideal for sharing with families because it was designed so that adults and children could learn and practice mindfulness together. So no mindfulness experience is required in order to use these, and they're a lot of fun. And boy, in a stressful time like this, simple mindfulness practices like these can be incredibly valuable. So another thing to share. So if you are supporting families with adolescents at home, whether you are a middle school educator and you're looking for something to share with your families, or you're an elementary educator and you've got families that have older kids at home and you want to be able to provide resources for them as well, or this also is very useful for families with high school students at home. So if you can feel free to share this with colleagues that are working in the high school level. Parenting Connect we created this sort of as the family side of our middle school program. It's always been completely free from parentingconnect.org and will always remain completely free. And it's a fantastic resource to use. The basic premise of Parenting Connect is it is some supports that are designed for adolescents and their families to watch together in order to spur conversation. And it sounds a little hokey when I say that, but it comes from I think it's got a very honest and real feel to it that adolescents connect with well and families connect with well. And so for a place to start to kind of because talking with an adolescent is not always easy. And it's not easy for them to talk to their families. There's a lot of reasons why this can be a very fraught relationship. And now adolescents and families are spending an incredibly large amount of time together, which can be stressful in a lot of different ways. And so Parenting Connect is a fantastic resource that they can use to sort of open up channels of communication so that they can work through all the issues that are coming up during this crisis. I highly recommend it. It is also available in both English and Spanish, so it's another resource that we've got translated. Another thing I want to share is the Imagine Neighborhoods podcast. So we launched this in March, and with no idea that there was going to be a pandemic hitting the world. when we planned that launch date. But we launched it in March. It is a podcast that was originally our original planning for this was that we wanted to find a way for families with young children, like 4 or 5, like preschool age children, 4, 5, 6-year-old kids, to be able to practice social emotional learning skills at home and learn about social emotional learning skills at home. And so we created this podcast. It's a very fun podcast. Kids love listening to it. But it's got stuff for adults in it too. So it's not, I enjoy listening to the podcast episodes myself with my kid. And while listening to this fun podcast, we address really important social emotional concepts, and get a chance to practice them a little bit. So while we're right at the moment, we're using this as sort of the basis for our problem solving materials that I talked about earlier. There's also just a bunch of standalone podcast episodes that we've created that are available for free. And I really, and it's not, I'd say I think it's great. Well, of course I think it's great because I work for Committee for Children and I like it. But we have seen incredible uptake from this. It has been regularly in the top 10 of family and educational podcast listings on Apple iTunes, for example. So it's been getting a ton of traction. We've been getting a lot of feedback from educators saying that it's actually working really well, not just with those really young kids, but working all the way through 9, 10, 11-year-old kids are enjoying this as well. So, and that's part of the reason why we took it and adapted it for those problem-solving activities for K-5, is that we're really finding that it's got a broad appeal. And so take a listen to it, check it out. And we've got more episodes that are coming out all the time. And as an additional thing, we would love your feedback on this as well, because this podcast is being created in a little different way than we normally create programs. Your feedback that you provide us today could very well show up. It could influence how our podcast that comes out 2 weeks from now looks and sounds, and the support materials that we create for it, because we're creating it kind of just in time production of these podcasts. So please, not only let us know what you think and how we could do better with this, because we can turn that feedback around right away. And I want to get into the bullying prevention and child abuse protection materials. So the first thing I want to let everybody know about is the Captain Compassion bullying prevention site that we have. This is a campaign we run every October that supports bullying prevention and has a bunch of activities that families can do at home around bullying prevention. And from that site, you can kind of dig in a little bit deeper, and we've got and then get into a lot of the bullying prevention resources that we have available on our Committee for Children website, cfchildren.org. And there's just a ton of resources there that families can use to continue the work of bullying prevention programs. And this is what we're recommending that educators use in place of the second step bullying prevention unit during school closures. You'll find a lot of stuff there that you can adapt and use. There is Spanish language materials that are in there. It's a little weird when you go to the website right now because it reflects where we were at the end of last October. So everything is like on the last week. But you can the last week of the 6-week of activities that we had last October. But you can go back and you can see everything is still there and be able to access it. And I think really kind of go in there and poke around first, and you'll be able to. There's a lot there. So just kind of dumping families onto that website might be kind of an awkward experience for them. But if you go through and kind of pick and choose particular resources that you think are really useful for your families and your children, the children you serve, then that's a great way to use it. Also, this has been and always will be for free. So you don't have to worry about any sort of logins or anything, and families don't have to worry about logins for anything like that. And on a similar vein is our Hot Chocolate Talk and Early Open Opt-in sites. These are resources that we have available to support child abuse prevention work. And our Hot Chocolate Talk is a campaign that we run every May, so it's just finished. It's every April, so it just finished up at the beginning of May. And there's lots of resources there for families to have conversations around key concepts that will help kids stay safe from abuse. And also ways that families can themselves help keep their children safe from abuse. The resources are designed for families to use, so the language that is used and the way things are presented is very approachable. Also, if you dig down, so Early Open Opt-in was an earlier campaign that we ran around child abuse prevention that has a lot of resources there. And you go to Early Open Opt-in, you can also find everything is available in Spanish as well. So lots of great resources. You continue the work of the child protection unit during school closures in a way that is really meant for families. And the last thing I want to say is that all this stuff I've been talking about here is not everything. We have a lot of other stuff that's available. If you go to the website and kind of dig into it, you'll see it. Some things we have is that we partnered with Sesame Street a few years ago to create resources to help support students who are experiencing difficulties, and little kids who are experiencing difficulties in their lives. And those resources are really useful now, particularly the ones around kind of how we can help support resilience in small children. We have our summer passport program, which we have adapted to be a spring passport program now. This is a fun light lift activity that families can do at home to kind of reinforce core second step skills. And so that's available right now. And then we have just a bunch of free resources that you can adapt for use in remote learning, and encourage you all to check it out right there. So those are kind of the resources we have. And now I want to take just a moment to talk about the different ways that we can all kind of stay connected and support each other during this. The first one is I want to let you all know that we have a Facebook community for Second Step educators. You can see the link right there to come and join if you've got a Facebook account. Just come on and click to join, answer a few questions, and you'll be in right away. This is my day job, is managing this community, among other things. So I feel very close to the group of educators that are in here, and I just feel like it's an amazing space. We're getting close to 4,000 really committed Second Step educators that are in here that have just really. It's been amazing to watch over the last couple months how they've come together, are supporting each other with great ideas and resources, and people coming in with questions and getting really, really awesome answers and support from fellow educators. If you're looking, there's nothing quite like hearing from somebody else who is actually working in the field, who's dealing with the exact same issues that you are day in and day out, to get advice from them. You can come in here and ask people like that, and connect with people who have been using Second Step. There's people that have been using Second Step there are people using Second Step for 20, 30 years that are part of this community and have just a wealth of knowledge that they can share. And in addition to being able to connect with all of your fellow educators in this community, you also get a chance to have a real close connection with Committee for Children. We pay very close attention to the conversations that are happening in there, and many of the resources that you've seen outlined earlier in this presentation, they originated in this community when members were letting us know what they needed or giving us suggestions on how we could do things better. This community was a real driving force in shaping how we responded to this crisis. And moving forward, it will continue to be an important force for us even after this crisis is over. We'll still be looking to this community for support ourselves in making sure that the programs and things that we are creating are as good as they can be. And then finally, both during this crisis and after, this is a place to be if you want to be the first person to know about new things that we have coming and resources that we've got coming out. People in the community will be the first to know. So I encourage you all to take a look and join it. I look forward to seeing you all there. Also, please don't forget that we have an awesome client support services team. You can call us up. You can email us anytime. You can call us up. You got the hours right there, and speak to our team. They are a highly experienced group of people who know our programs backwards and forwards, and can help you with anything from tech support to implementation support to what have you. Questions about they've heard it and they know the answers. They're a great resource. I encourage you to call them up and get to know them. Tell them Matt sent you, but actually do that. Tell them that Matt sent you and see if we'll see if they. You don't have to do that. That's just amusing for me. All right, so we've gone through a bunch of stuff. Here is a dense slide full of links to all the things. I'm going to leave this up right now just so you can kind of take a look at it. But don't forget, you're going to be getting the slide deck in your email in a few days. So you'll have this resource, this reference for you moving forward. You don't have to to scramble if you don't want to. But I do want to take some time right now to take questions. And Jen, I know you've been tracking on the chat in the Q&A. I have not. So if there are things that you want to call out for me to answer, I would love to start diving into this. I can see there's been a lot of activity in the chat box.
Yes, it's a very chatty group, which is nice in some ways and also hectic in other ways. So let's see. I do have some questions, and they kind of all. It's just sort of popcorning. So okay. I try to sometimes put them in an order, but it's hard. People's thoughts come as they do. So let's see. One of the questions was around being able to keep posts up of recorded lessons. I think that's what they meant was if your school is a second step school, do we have to remove the posts that they have put up?
You don't have to remove the posts. So let me I'll dig a little bit into our June 30th deadline and what that means. So as of right now, what all of our legal stuff that we've put together around copyright protection and everything like that says that if you have made a recording of yourself using second set materials and you have that up somewhere, that we would like you to take it down by June 30th, and that we will take down the recordings that we have made on June 30th as well. So you don't have to take the post down, but as at this moment, those links may not work after June 30th. And I want to say again that we recognize that June 30th date was optimistic when we made it, and we are considering what to do with it. But as of this day, right now, June, that's still the date when everything needs to come down. But you don't need to take posts down around it or anything like that. So I think that kind of
covers it.
Covers it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. I'm just going to dig through these questions. I think there were a few different questions about other languages for all of our resources, specifically a request for Arabic, which, I can answer. You can just, if you know off the top of your head which of our resources that we've talked about today are in Spanish. I do know that Spanish is the only language that we have any translations for of any of our resources.
Yeah. So we don't, the only stuff we have available is in Spanish. And right now, as of this moment, we have Spanish language stuff for Mind Yeti and for Parenting Connect and for elements of Captain Compassion and elements of the Hot Chocolate Toxin, and all of Early Open Option for that child abuse prevention support is in Spanish.
There was a specific question for Imagine Neighborhood, and I know that is not in Spanish either. Yeah,
Imagine Neighborhood is not in Spanish. We will have Spanish subtitles for the recorded lessons soon. We're working on that right now. Imagine Neighborhoods, we know we've been getting. I'll say we've been getting a lot of requests for Spanish language supports. 2, if you would like to see Spanish language supports for Imagine Neighborhoods or anything else, please email us or give us a call, because the more people that ask us for it, it's important. It's important for us to be able to hear that. So we want to know that you have those requests. So let us know. And to say also that we are aware of it, and we are working on something. We are working on a plan for Imagine Neighborhoods. We don't really have that plan in place yet, but we are trying to figure out a way that we can create supports. And I'll just be, because Imagine Neighborhoods is audio, there's we can't subtitle it. Re-recording all new versions in Spanish is beyond our means at the moment, unfortunately. So we're looking at creative solutions to create alternate supports in Spanish. As that plan comes together, we will keep everyone updated on it, and we hope to be able to meet that need in some way.
Okay, great, thank you. So just to clarify, I think because there was that question about posting, for someone who is a second step school, there was a question of what is the benefit of these resources if my school is not a second step school? Yeah. There's maybe a little confusion about what's free and available to everybody, and then what, if you are a second step school, kind of what that gives you.
So everything that you've seen here today is free and available to everybody. So if you go to our COVID-19 support page, every resource on there is free. The recorded versions of our lessons are free. The Imagine Neighborhoods adventures, problem-solving content is free. All of that is free. Everything. Anybody can use it. There's other things that kind of support the entire program, like something I didn't mention earlier is that we have made our streaming media. So like our songs, we have songs and videos that go along with our K-5 lessons. We've made those available to families, but those are to families who of schools using Second Step, so they need to have a family login. And for educators to get to that, they would need to have a family login as well, which does remind me of another Spanish support that we have. That if you are a user of Second Step, you can go in and we actually have Spanish translations of all of our lesson cards. All of our lessons for K-5 are available on our website, so that while we don't have Spanish language versions of our recorded lessons, you can make those yourself if you have the language ability by using those Spanish supports that we have available on online, and those are always available all the time to people who have the program.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I think that helps a lot. Let's see. So another question about, I think, kind of just the rules around sharing. I could answer this, but you could maybe. So am I able to share the podcast with our private Facebook group that we have set up for families and staff?
Yes, the Imagine Neighborhood podcast, you can share that far and wide. Please do. Share it with anybody you would like. And that is always going to be free.
Good. Yes, I think all of those might, and all of the any of the Hot Chocolate Talk or Captain Compassion, all of those things. Yes, please share them far and wide to all the families.
Yeah.
There is a question about kind of on that family vein of how to help families create logins. How can they do that?
So this is we get this question a lot. So we've made so if you want to share the belly breathing video or the calm down dance video with your families, you can. Unfortunately it is a cumbersome process to do it. And again, there are technical reasons for this that I sort of barely understand for why that is, but we've made it as accessible as we could. The process is that families need to have their own login, so they need to use a family activation key in order to create their own account on secondstep.org. And we have those family activation keys are available in a few different places. They're in the family letters that you would send home at the beginning of the school year to families. They are also available on our COVID-19 support page. We have the keys available right there, along with instructions for how to log in. Also, all of the family support documents that go along with our recorded lessons have the family keys and instructions for creating an account. So families need to create an account. Once they've created an account, what you as an educator can do is you can go into secondstep.org and you can go to the streaming media. You can go to whatever page has the media that you want to share, and you take that URL, and it's going to be kind of an ugly long URL, and you copy it and you paste it into wherever you want to share it. You're putting it into Google Classroom to share with your students, or you're putting it in an email to family's home, or however you get that URL to your students and families, you get it to them, and then they can click on it and they can open it up themselves and they can get to that media themselves at home. They'll just need to be able to log into secondstep.org to do it. And that will last through June 30th at the moment. Again, that June 30th date is just the current date that we're working with right now. And they'll be able to access those. And actually, under this, families can get to almost anything that's on secondstep.org as long as you provide them with the URL in order to get to it.
Great, thank you so much. Let's see. I think you did touch on this, but maybe just to repeat for those that might have missed it. The question is, will you be posting the social emotional lessons for K3 from Second Step Kits beyond lesson 19? I may be somewhat ahead, but I'd love to see these posted soon.
So we are not planning right now to record any more lessons. What we do have instead is we have those the Imagine Neighborhood's Daily Adventures problem solving activities, which rather than being recorded lessons are created from scratch in order to be used by families at home. And they cover the same content that you would be covering in the lessons after lesson 19. So all the unit 4, the problem solving unit content. So they're a little different. It's not the same thing as getting a recorded lesson. It's not going to look and feel like Second Step, but it is closely aligned to Second Step. And we feel more accessible to families, more usable for families during this crisis than the recorded lessons themselves. We're really excited about them, so please check them out.
Yes, it's pretty amazing. I think that this team is really trying to take in all the feedback, work super quickly to respond to that, and then to create resources that can be used by anyone. So I want to give you a hats off for that, because I think it's fantastic. Let's see, we've got one more. Maybe we'll take a couple more before we end our time together. Let's see. This one is thinking about looking ahead and hoping that kids will be back to school in the fall. Mm-hmm. Will you be offering advisory activities to help educators process this whole experience with their advisory groups?
That's a great question. We are well aware that that this crisis is ongoing. That a number of things. That when schools open up in the fall, they may not open up looking like they opened up last fall. School could look different. And then also that students, no matter what happens, when students come back to school, they're going to be coming back having experienced a pretty traumatic experience. That there's going to be a lot of need to sort of support students and help them re-enter into school after this extended break in a very crazy time. We don't have those materials ready yet, but we are working on them right now. And we will have stuff available for you before school opens up in the fall.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, I am going to cull through these questions. I had some set aside, so now I'm just kind of making sure I don't miss anything. Let's see. Lots of really lovely messages from you all saying how wonderful all the resources are. We really appreciate that so much. Let's see. More about Spanish. I did put the webinars address to register for webinars in the chat box a few different times. I'd just like to put in an additional plug for that. There were a few questions about how to access the future webinars. So please do go to that web address, secondstep.org/webinars. And you can find the upcoming schedule for all of our webinars, including the ones that Matt is doing for us in this response, and then all of our other regularly scheduled and special topics. So I hope you'll go there and check that out. There's a lot there, and they've been just very well attended since people have a little time, I think, to do that. Let me see. I think one last question came in, and I'm going to it was just a thank you. So thank you. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Matt, before we end our time today?
No, I just want to reinforce one thing. I saw one last question that came across in the chat. Some people here saying if there's anything you shouldn't share from the resources guide. And I say, no, please share this stuff far and wide with anybody who might be interested and with families. And this is a crazy time, and we just really want to make sure that children and families are getting as much social emotional support as they can, because they need it, we need it. Also, don't forget, we've got some stuff in here to support educator social emotional well-being as well, like the gratitude module and things like that, because we all need support at this time, and that's really important. So share far, share wide. We made this to be able to be a help, not just to Second Step educators, but to everybody. So that's last thing I want to leave with it, and
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Matt, for your time today. It's always such a pleasure to co-host webinars with you. And I want to say thank you to all of our participants today. We know that even though you might have a little more time for online things, you are definitely juggling a lot. And if our work is any indication of how kind of hectic Zoom meetings and all those other kinds of interactive things can be, we know that it's hard to make these kinds of commitments and join us. And we had almost 1,000 people on with us today, so that really tells us that social emotional learning is really important to educators and to supporting our kids and our families. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope we'll see you on another webinar sometime soon. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care and stay well and safe and healthy, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.